before the evening is out. That was the point that I was trying to make.
Exactly, Clayton, and that's what they are telling people around here, that water is on its way, and it is going to be here. And I think the reports that we've shown off and on all day indicate that the water is rising, and it's definitely going to flood those areas. A nice orderly evacuation is the only way to prevent it from being disastrous.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. At City Hall, at the Emergency Operations Center once again, and that kind of report and that kind of reasoning is particularly ominous for areas, of course, that are farther downriver, but which are already flooding and in which emergencies already exist. And I'm thinking particularly now of the Jenks and Bixby areas, because those areas flooded with much less outflow than what is actually coming down the river now from the Keystone Dam. Again, the Jenks and Bixby reaches of the river may not feel the effects of the latest increase in the outflow until around midnight tonight. And so if we already have substantial problems in Jenks and Bixby, which we do, it would follow rationally that those problems are going to increase and increase rather severely as the night wears on. Our special coverage of the rains of '86 and the problems attendant thereto continues in a moment. As you may know, is on some very low ground, which is just generally to the west of the main part of Jenks, and that area was evacuated, which involved moving all of the airplanes that could be moved in the Jenks area. We want to check right now with Jim Giles to see about the possibility of any additional rains tonight. This will not be a full-blown weather forecast, I don't think, but before we go any further, perhaps we should check and just make sure that we are out of the woods as far as any local rains that might contribute to this water that is already standing in these communities and also threatening a large part of Tulsa. Jim, we're not looking for any more rain tonight, are we, here locally?
No, not at all. I think we are indeed out of the woods at this time. Now, we could have a few light sprinkles or drizzle around the area, but really that's going to be non-important as far as the flooding goes. This is radar, and we're looking off to the south. Here's Oklahoma City, here's Tulsa, ground clutter around Tulsa. We're looking at some scattered showers, mostly light, a few moderate showers south of Oklahoma City, through the Ardmore area, back up through McAllister and over to Fort Smith. And they've been dancing around in that same location for a number of hours. It was much heavier and a much larger area covered by storms 3 or 4 hours ago, but that started to break up. As far as our area goes, out to the west for the drainage region, for the Cimarron, for the Arkansas, and on to the north of us, really it's looking pretty good tonight. Even tomorrow, I think the chance of showers will be way down. So after many days, Clayton, of really bad news when it comes to weather, I think we have some good news for a change.
All right, good. Thank you. We'll be coming back to you, Jim, for some additional information. I've just been notified that there is an immediate need for more people to help with sandbagging operations at the 51st and Peoria area. That's in the parking lot of one of the shopping centers there. And the people who can come down do need to bring bags with them. Evidently, they need both people and bags in order to try to fill more bags so that they can be taken to the areas where they are going to be needed most. And this note is a little old at this point, but worth passing along in any event. And that is that the University Village Retirement Center is experiencing some flooding. I don't know exactly of what nature, although the center is located at about the 8500 block on South Lewis. The elderly residents there, about an hour ago at least, were in need of some help in evacuation. So if you can help, you might want to drop by there. That's the 8500 block of South Lewis, the University Village Retirement Center, particularly if you know someone who might be in that center. We want to switch now to Mary Grady, who is along Riverside Drive, and Mary is from Place 1, which is Riverside and about 33rd Street. And Mary, we always knew that Place 1 was going to be one of those places that the Corps of Engineers and the city emergency people had marked for a possibility of some early water, and that's certainly what it looks like that you are either standing in or very close to.
Well, Clayton, basically the water that you see behind me is not directly from the Arkansas River. It's from the drainage system, the stormwater drainage system. And listening to you last night on you and Joe Webb, I heard you talking about that being a problem in floods that we've had before. At this point, looking directly straight ahead, that water is about knee deep. And if you go around the corner the water becomes thigh deep. It's getting very, very deep. And if you can believe it, we've been here just over 30 minutes, and where we are right now, we had to back up 10 feet from where we first put our camera. And it's rising here inch by inch, and it's just getting higher and higher. And what's so incredible, as I look at this water behind me, I can turn around and I can see the Arkansas River in front of me. They're maybe 50 yards apart. And at some point, if things keep up the way they are going to meet. Now, this water that we're seeing behind here, there's no currents like you see on the Arkansas, but walking around here, I have seen some snakes and things like this in the water, and I've seen some people walking around through the water. So a lot of people who are still trying to get their things out of their downstairs apartments here, they might want to be aware of those things. Most of the apartments have about 4 steps up until that first level. As I said, the water around the corner is already up to the second step, and it's already almost up to the first step, and I'm looking at the water from the Arkansas, so things don't look good at this point here at Place 1 Apartments. But as Jim said, thankfully it hasn't rained today, and I think that has really helped a lot of people get out of their apartments.
Mary, one of the things that strikes me about that report is that, I don't know how long you talked there, but we didn't see a single person. Has there been any activity at Place 1, or have people actually made all the preparations and have really, are they that scarce in the area?
Well, last night, listening to Joe, I can remember Captain Baker saying that this was one of the first places that was going to flood. So I think people really started to get out of here last night. I was here earlier today, and there was a lot of activity around here. Since we've been here, we've seen cars go through, we've seen people on bicycles, and we've seen people wading through the water trying to get to their apartments, maybe realizing that they've left something, they need to get it, and they need to get it out.
All right, Mary, thank you very much. Appreciate you going out for that report. I want to correct something that I said just a moment ago. I identified in error the place where the elderly residents need help in evacuation. That's the University Inn, not the University Village retirement home. That's the University Inn at 8555 South Lewis, and I wanted to make sure that we set the record straight on that one. A couple of other notes. Public Service Company of Oklahoma has said that they will be cutting power to neighborhoods expected to flood, but purely as a safety measure and as a precautionary measure. PSO is in touch with the City Emergency Operations Center and will be cutting electric power to only small areas at a time as it is needed. So if you are in an area that is expected to flood and your power goes out, it is probably something that was planned and is being done as a precautionary measure, and it should not be viewed as an emergency of any nature. Also, Oklahoma Natural Gas, ONG, has been turning off gas service to homes being flooded. Employees are going door to door right now in the area of 51st and Riverside. This, of course, also a safety precaution and should be viewed as such. Earlier today, the City Water and Sewer Department headquarters at 23rd and Jackson had to be evacuated. That's on the west side of the 21st Street Bridge over the Arkansas River. And that knocked out phone service for emergency water and sanitary sewer problems. We do have new telephones now if you should be experiencing any water or sanitary sewer difficulty. The new telephone number for water emergencies is there on your screen, 250-2464. For sanitary sewers, if there is a problem along those lines, the new one to call is 250-2467. Those numbers changed since the yard at 23rd and Jackson had to be evacuated. Flooding, of course, left a number of people in need here in the Tulsa area, and now groups like the Red Cross are being counted upon to help those people out, along with many private volunteers, of course. Many people out there are giving of their own time and of their own energy to lend a hand in whatever way they can, and Sam Baker shows us instances of both in this report. Do you have any life jackets or emergency
Where are
lighting?
you located? It occurred to us that we might be part of the flood. And so we said, who do we know that can help us? And called a few friends, and then realized we weren't going to be the only ones who didn't know who to call. So we thought, okay, it's Saturday, we don't have to work, why don't we just get this thing going?
Thanks for calling.
Peggy Schubert and Don McMath run a small computer company called Small Systems, a part-time operation for programming and consulting. Today they've offered to consult with people who need help and with people who want to give it.
Child care services, or their home, or I've got a freezer, got an awful lot of, I have a pickup truck and a couple of people who want to help work.
Many people are seeking help by heading straight for local shelters around town to avoid the danger of flooding, in spite of any obstacles.
We have one handicapped man and we have one lady that is in labor. And so her mother's here, but we're waiting on her.
How are you going to handle that? That's quite a situation.
We'll send her to the hospital if if the time comes.
We can, you got some tape, we'll pin that up on that wall. Is this extra sheet you're using too?
This is half of the...
Workers at this Central High School shelter were taking care of 175 people by 10:30 in the morning. Workers say they can handle as many people as they can take, but that they can use all the volunteers they can get to help with people who find themselves in a strange place to call home for a while. Sam Baker, Channel 6 News.
And we will have more coverage of the rains of '86 after this.
Could it be? The honeymooners are back?
Don't let it worry you, Trixie. It's just another one around Tab Rainstein.
It's true. This fall, Channel 6 serves up honeymooners episodes never before seen on broadcast TV.
You know, to look at me, I guess you'd never think I was driving a bus yesterday.
That's so.
Yeah.
I was working in the sewer.
Sunday nights at 10:30, it's the lost episodes of The Honeymooners, coming this fall to Channel 6.
Sometimes, you know, right away, you have this sinking feeling within the first 10 minutes. You realize the movie was not made with any intelligence or any ambition.
Very few people in Hollywood seem to know how to write a script. They know how to throw laser beams at us, but they don't know how to write a story.
It has to be a story about people the audience cares about, and that's the starting point. That's what you build on.
Good movies are the exception, not the rule.
For the critical difference, it's Siskel and Ebert and the movies, Sunday nights at 11:30.
Hello, I'm Glenda Sylvie. Tulsa Opera season opens with Porgy and Bess, and you'll be swept away by George Gershwin's musical Tide. You'll hear the outcry of the people of Catfish Row as they triumph over troubled times. You'll ache for Porgy as his love for Bess unfolds in a timeless story of hope and faith. You'll thrill to the irresistible torrent of Summertime, It Ain't Necessarily So, and I Got Plenty of Nothing. KOTV invites you to experience this musical masterpiece at the Performing Arts Center in November.
Now here's Jim, who is back with us once again with a more regular type of weather forecast, because we want to get the information because it is so important to all of us here for the next several days. Jim?
Thank you very much, Clayton. And for a change, I have no rain in the forecast to speak of. It's cloudy. It's 65 degrees, dew point of 54. That makes it 68% relative humidity, and this is as dry as we've seen now for going on 3, possibly even 4 weeks. Northwesterly wind and a rising barometer on the hour. Let me show you radar. We're seeing some showers well down to the south. They're moving east-northeast. No danger at all to us right now. Light for the most part, a few moderate showers from Oklahoma City to Ardmore to McAllister and points to the south of the Red River, Fort Smith, and then on over into Arkansas. This is ground clutter around Tulsa, and it looks like through the evening and overnight period, if we do get precipitation, it should be very, very light. Some sprinkles or drizzle, very light rain, and I think it would add very, very little to the problems as far as the flooding goes, but it certainly would make the situation feel far less comfortable, I am sure. But the heavier rains definitely to our south and likely to stay there. Now, Mike Anderson put together a really nice rainfall chart from the last several days. I'd like to show you this. Now, this is the 5-day, this would be the 6-day rain total. And notice now, this is Tulsa County. Tulsa's marked. And notice the 20-plus inches of rainfall up around the Ponca City area and stretching on up into south central Kansas. Now, of course, all of that is coming down the Arkansas River. Also, we're looking at 5 to 10 inches of rain from Tulsa heading out to the west and immediately jumping to 10 to 15 inches, 15 to 20 inches as we go on up into northwestern Oklahoma. Now, that's quite a distance in which we've seen nothing but 10, 15, and 20-inch rain amounts for the last several days. Now, that's exactly the path, of course, of the Cimarron, and it's draining all of that water right down into the Cimarron and headed for Keystone Lake, of course. Looking up to the north of us through the Bartlesville area, likewise, 10 and 15, 20-inch rainfall amounts to the north of us towards the Bartlesville area. Here we go. Generally 10 to 15 to 20-inch amounts in that immediate area, dropping off to the south and east to more like 10 and 15-inch amounts. But that's coming down the Caney River. So some tremendous rains like we've likely never seen before, covering an extremely large area and all draining for the most part towards Keystone Lake. Now here's a actual river map showing the flow of the Arkansas River. That's that bullseye area where we had 20 inches and more rainfall. The heavy rains on up into Kansas, of course, that rain was held by Call Lake, and that has helped somewhat the flooding problem. At least it kept that water from immediately gushing down the Arkansas. Out to the west, no dams on the Cimarron River. That water is coming virtually uncontrolled into Keystone Lake, and obviously that's one of our major problems. Up along the Copan and Gila area, those lakes also held some of the floodwaters coming out of Kansas, and the Caney River then will go not into Keystone Lake, but off to the east of us and eventually merge with the Arkansas over around Muskogee. I also remind you that during this past week there was exceptionally heavy rains on the Grand River system as well. That all will be draining into Muskogee. So we're worrying about the problems here immediately in and around the Tulsa area and points to the north and out west. But within a day or so, we're going to have some extreme problems around the Muskogee area to be dealt with as well. Now here's our current satellite picture. We've got quite a bit of cloudiness here, but actually you saw on radar, rains to the south. There's the cold front, which was really great news for us this morning when the cold front rolled through, brought us some cooler, drier air and ended our precipitation. We've had some heavy showers off to the south of us, 65 degrees on the hour here, 62 over in Oklahoma City, and it drops off a little bit. Here's 50 degrees in Wichita, Kansas, 85 down in Shreveport. Now here's that satellite picture without the fronts and all the numbers to obscure it, quite a bit of cloudiness. Let's drop back to 10 o'clock last night. Now we watched some showers over in West Texas, and look at that area of storminess that built up over, again, the Cimarron River Basin, dropped 1 to 3 inches of rain for the most part, but as it moved on to the east, through the Tulsa area and Bartlesville, rainfall rates 1/4 of an inch or even less.